Okay, now we're going to have a little look at the double blocks. So there are 3 double blocks that we mainly look at in class. The double low block, the double high block, and the double inside to outside middle block. And when we say double, what we mean is two-handed rather than two of. So it's a double-handed inside to outside middle block, or double-handed low block, or double-handed high block. Okay, so the first block, Mr. Nelson's just going to demonstrate for you a normal low block in a front stance. So he's going to step out, low block, front stance. So we have a good front stance, which is feet under our shoulders, 2 separate lines. And with a low block, we're protecting our lower area. So the low part of the chest, okay? Groin area, that's what we're protecting. Go back, Mr. Nelson. With a double low block, what we're doing is protecting more from a kick that's coming up towards the groin area. So what Mr. Nelson does is, as he goes into that intermediate position, which is sideways on, he has both hands by his hip, okay? Now, if he's going to step with his left leg, he's going to have his right hand on top. And if he steps with his right leg, they go on the other side, and he has his left hand on top. So it's opposite hand to the leg you step with, goes on top. So he pops both hands on his hip, and then what he does is he drives forwards, probably more than downwards, because what he's doing is he's pushing out for that kick that's coming up. Okay, so the kick's coming up like that, and he's protecting. Okay, what he's doing is pushing outwards. That means he has to not lean forward. If he leans forward when he does this, he brings his head into range, and people can potentially give him a bop on the end of the nose. So what he does is he bends his front knee a little bit more than normal and pushes the hands out, and that's what protects. We need the hands to be crossed, not at the wrists, because that's too small a gap to try and catch whatever's coming. We need to cross the hands in between the elbow, just there, and the wrist, just there. So the arms cross in the middle, a nice big area to catch that kick. Okay, so watch a couple of Mr. Nelson when he steps forward. So he's going to step on his left side, go. Good, nice and low, go. That's it, and again, go. And notice how it's more of a forward motion than the low block motion, which comes from the shoulder. So it comes from the hip more out towards the front of the body. So we're going to have a little look on the other side. Okay, again, good front stance, bending that front knee a little bit more than normal, pushing out towards the front of the room or towards the attacker, scooping up that kick in between arms that are crossed between the elbows and the wrists. Okay, now just like any other block, you can do it in a side stance, you can do it in a back stance. Not sure how you do it in a horse stance, but we're not going to try that today. Any block can be done with any stance. My old karate sensei, any block, any stance makes no difference whatsoever. Whatever works for you. We've just demonstrated it with a front stance because that's the easiest one. Okay, now Mr. Nelson's going to step back away from the danger to do the same block. So the hands come to the hip of the leg that's now moving, because this won't be the front leg. This will be the rear leg. So it's the rear leg and strikes forward. Okay, a couple more times, Mr. N. Steps back, and again he's pushing out, keeping his head away from danger. Nice long front stance. Good. And from the other side, steps away from the danger. Oh, the other side, Mr. N. That's it. Steps away from the danger and blocks. So again, whichever leg is being left forward, then you are using the other hand to be on top. So he's got his right leg forward, therefore his left arm is on top. Thank you very much, Mr. Nelson. Good, so now we're going to do the two-handed high block, and you can do this either with your fists closed, or you can do it with your fists open. And we seem to do it more often fists open in class, although Master Smythe did recommend that we might want to change the name from Sangsu Sangdan Maki to Sangsu Sangdan Sudo Maki, because technically it's with a knife hand. However, I think we're getting a little bit complicated there. So, Sangsu Sangdan Maki, double high block, Sangsu Hadan Maki, double low block. So Mr. Nelson takes a step forward, the hands come to the hip, just like with the double low block, and they go out above his head. Now, really important that you can see through your arms. You don't want to be looking over the top, okay? Because what happens then is the strike that's coming down will hit you on the head, okay? So you've got to look through that position in your arms. And again, you want a good front stance. Again, you can do it with side stance, you can do it with back stance, etc. So stepping forward, two-handed high block, nice knife hands. Make sure that you don't have a bend in these hands. You don't want either the hands bent like that or the hands bent like that. Again, you want a nice straight line here and obviously on the other one, just so you can scoop up. Now you can probably block the hands slightly closer to the wrists than to the elbows. So that's not a problem. But you want a nice big area to scoop up the stick, as well as being able to see through that space in the front. Okay, couple more, Mr. N, and then we'll have a look on the other side. So hands, he's stepping with his left leg, so hands come to the right hip, and drive upwards. Okay, no change to the front stance, just a normal front stance. It's not like we have to bend the knee. From the other side now, he's going to step out, drive upwards, that's it. And now because he's stepping with his right leg, he's got his left arm on top. Okay, left hand goes on top. To be honest, if somebody was hitting you over the top of the head, I don't think it would really matter which hand goes on top. But if you're doing it in a form or standing in front of one of the masters, they will want to see the opposite hand to the leg you've got forward being on top. Good. And again, just like any of our double blocks, you can do it in any stance. Now, Mr. Nelson, if you just demonstrate a normal inside to outside middle block in a front stance for me, please. That's it. The hand back again for me a couple of times while I talk. The hand comes to the rear hip and it comes out across the body, pivots at the elbow's underneath the fist. The fist is eyes height in the middle. If you ask Mrs. Burns, she'll tell you that. That is our mantra at press switch. Eyes height in the middle, elbow underneath the hand, and comes from the hip. When we do the two-handed block, they both come out together. So they both go to the hip, they come out together, and the spare hand reinforces the elbow. And you want, if you just take that hand off, Mr. N, thank you, you want that space between those two knuckles to go on that big knobbly bony part on the inside of your elbow, and that's how we reinforce it. The back fist is faced out, and that's protecting our center, whilst our middle block is still eyes height in the middle. Don't be tempted to pull it across to the shoulder area. You're protecting your face. So eyes height in the middle with the block, and the second hand, the reinforcing hand, protects the middle, the center mass. Go. Double block, and the hands get thrown out together. So there's lots of speed and power in this. Okay, lots of speed and power. Comes from the hip, goes out. Second hand goes out to reinforce. From the other side, you can see this. Steps out, double blocks. Steps out, double blocks. Steps out, double blocks. Now, just like with the low block, you can also step backwards. We didn't show you that with the high block. Maybe we'll do that with the high block. So Mr. Nelson, step back and do a high block. Look at that, moving away from the stick. Same principle as before. Steps back, hand comes to the hip of the leg that's moving. The two hands go up together and create that V shape above our head. It's like watching the X Factor. Okay, from the other side, go. Look at that. Go. And one more time. And we can do exactly the same. Stay on this side for now, Mr. N, with the two-handed block. So we step away from our partner, we block, protect our face, and we protect our center mass by using that second hand. And from the other side, you're stepping back, hands go to the hip of the leg that's moving, and we throw the block out nice and quickly towards the front. Good. Thank you, Mr. N. So we've got three blocks there. We've got Sang-Soo Anazo Pakuromaki. Two-handed, he did the complicated version. Two-handed inside to outside middle block. We've got Sang-Soo Sangdan Maki, or to be probably slightly more correct, asking Master Smythe, Sang-Soo Sangdan Pseudo Maki, but let's not get hung up over that. And then let's do one moving forward, Mr. Nelson. We've got Sang-Soo Hadan Maki, which is the double low block. Okay, thank you, Mr. Nelson. All right, team, have a little practice of those. Do 1,000 in your back garden, and then you might be as good as Mr. Nelson.